Hi everyone, this is New Beer Watcher. It is September 21st, 2017, and I had injected this video portion because we're watching this in the real time, and because it's too compelling, so I had further explanation, but I had made some mistakes in the previous video that you're going to see after this little presentation, and one was that I'd said that these objects were rotating counterclockwise when they're actually rotating clockwise. And then I made a comment about light. Why we see the color red is because red has a larger magnetic field than all the other colors, which when it hits an object, it bends the least, unlike ultraviolet light, which has a small magnetic field, which is easily more bended. And when it hits objects, that's how you get all the rainbow colors. So just look at a prism and you can see, like the Pink Floyd album, you can see that the red is more straight. It's less likely to bend and be manipulated into bending. So with all that out of the way, I'm going to put this in, and a little later in the video, we're going to go into more detail about what this object is and collaborate and all the different cameras we see it. So I'll be trying to be quick, because this is just too amazing. This is happening right now in the southwest sky. In fact, let me show you that this object here, when we look at the stellarium chart, this is, you can see here in my position in about the middle of Germany, right about here. This is the sun, this is the horizon. This object sits right here. Now, I'm not going into further detail, but this is more specifically, we can see where this is on stellarium, and this is a current view right now. You can see the time, this is right now. And then on solar system scope, this is also right now. You can see I positioned it thing here for about the middle of Germany. We go into more detail. Again, this object would sit about right here, about the shoulder of Virgo. I don't believe this to be Planet X. I think Planet X is actually, because I said this all in my video, so I will go into more detail, but I'm just injecting this quick video that Planet X would probably be almost under the moon. Not physically, but from the Earth's perspective. It sits in this position, approaching Jupiter, chasing after Jupiter, in fact, I think. So, with all that out of the way, let me keep just doing a quick time lapse before we miss this golden opportunity. Again, go get your cameras, face the southwest sky, look at this position of the sun, where it is, aim it at the shoulder of Virgo, get your star charts out. This is it. This is happening right now. I think this is even visible with the naked eye. Just your eyes have to adjust to the brightness of the sun. It's probably really intense out right now. Just let me go back and capture a couple images before, in case this gets deleted by the powers that be. So I just wanted to make a quick correction, show you the latest images as this thing is passing through our system. So continue to watch the rest of the video. Hi everyone, this is the Beer Watcher. It is September 21st, 2017, and it also is now the Hebrew year 5778, which coincidentally just happens to be the surface temperature of the sun in Kelvin degrees. So is that for a sign when you think? What are the odds of that, right? We are in a year that the sun, we matched the sun's temperature in our Hebrew civil year, 5778. So I am on addictedsports.com, and I'm not even going to get into entertaining the whole Photoshop nonsense, because I'm going to show you something that just vindicates everything, or any researcher who's watching this incoming planet is now visible with the naked eye. Yes, now visible. You'd probably have to put on a special filter because the brightness of the sun is changing this, but let me zoom in on this object. And I have overwhelming evidence that this object here is being orbited by 3 or more moons. Yes, you heard me right. I'm jumping right into this one. Just like in my last video I showed in Australia. This camera is facing the north southwest. Facing the southwest. Down here. Southwest direction. So let's go back in time. This is happening right now, by the way. So if you're out there, go get your cameras, especially if you're in this area in Germany, where these 3 cameras are pointed over a series of 3 lakes, roughly about 20, 30 miles apart, all in this area right here. So here is Lake Ammersee. I hope I pronounced that right. Then we've got, forgot how to pronounce them. Probably this lake down here. Again, this whole area is probably in the ballpark about 30 miles apart. And you want to correct me, feel free. But whatever. So what I'm going to show you, not only is this object coming in and changing its actually appearance of red, and now being illuminated by the sun. This thing is normally can't be seen unless it's being illuminated. And here's the sun. Now, what's even more shocking is the position of this object. But let me keep showing you the orbiting objects and the reflections on the water. You're not always going to get a reflection, but we do here. So just hang tight. Now here we have the object here. Now the artwork from the website does mask over this object here. Watch this object orbit around this object here, and along with other moons, 3 of them or more. I do believe the 3. Let's watch. So here we can see the shadow. Again, we see it. This object here is now, because of the lens array, which I will get to a little later in this video, of this object being orbited by this object and this object as they come into view. So we're going back in time, and now we can see the reflection of the water from those objects. I'm only going to show the more compelling ones as this thing. Let's go back. I have to click on this, show you the artwork. Here we have, you can see it turning red in this object here. Again, we're looking at it through diffused light lens array, which is pulling these planets out of focus that JPL had put into place. I would get into that. Just keep watching, because these objects are now bigger than the lens. And you can no longer pull them out of focus. That's why it's becoming visible with the naked eye. Watch, we're going to see the orbital path of this in the next couple of frames, and their reflections on the water. There. Did you see that? Now here we can see one of its moons now orbiting around this object here, and a reflection down here in the water. Let's click on that. So here we can see the object here is now in the frame, casting a shadow, so the path of light is going to be down in this area. So the light source is over here. Later on, the sun is over here. But now you can see these shadows are coming from the sun. Sometimes it can come from Nemesis, the second sun. There's a lot of orbiting bodies orbiting other bodies. Let's keep going back in time, and you can see that now the shadow's gone, and so is this. And as this appears, this orbiting body, keep going back, we can see it is now moved over here, and the shadow is now off the screen. Keep going back in time. You can see it still. Remember, the shadows being cast in the back side of the planet, the back of the clouds. Sorry. Now we can see the object is now orbited down here. So here we can see, you're not always going to see the shadow here. Let's click on that. Right here. And this is the shadow of the moon that's orbiting this planet. Let's go back. See it suddenly disappear. The shadow of this is over here, but as it moves higher, it is now casting the shadow on the water. Let's keep going. Oh, what do we got here? The shadow of this object, since the sun is further back in the sky, would have been further to the right on the water. So we're not going to get the shadow. This shadow of is a moon from the object on this side would have been over here. The camera doesn't catch all this. I don't believe this to be Planet X, by the way, which is kind of scary because this is closer to the star Nemesis, because I don't see any plasma wings. It doesn't look less like a spider and more of a round object. But so this, I believe, cast from the water. Remember, we're facing the southwest. And just hang in there, because wait till you see the position of this in the stars. But I want to stay focused, so let's just keep watching. Did we see the orbiting? This is being orbited by, now we've got 2 moons in this object, and now we can see it still being orbited, I believe, on this object. And here we can see the artwork is cropped off this moon of this more stable object, which I believe this is orbiting Nemesis. This must be the planet third from the orbit of Nemesis. So far, to the best of my knowledge, Nemesis has 4 planets with its moons. And let's go back. And I will leave links in the description so you can go back and see this yourself. And I wish anybody who reports this stuff would do the same thing. Did you catch that? Look at this, people. How stunning is that? Look at these planetary bodies now orbiting this. This 2 moons. This one seems to be in a further orbit from this than that one. And they're very fast orbiting planets, apparently. How fast? Well, in a time-lapse video, they move pretty quick. I have yet to crunch the numbers on math. I don't have time for it to run the numbers to see how fast these things are actually moving. There's a lot of math to get the actual speed, the orbital speeds. So I think we might have more in the picture, but let me show you where the position of this is. Again, this is facing the southwest. Southwest. Now, this is solar system scope. You can see the position. We can see the stars where we're at. I'm going to put this roughly in position of about the middle of Germany. This is facing the southwest. Look where we're at, people. Does that look familiar? This would be the setting of the sun. Didn't we all saying this is approaching Jupiter? I think it's right about here. We'll go back in this timeline. So we'll go back and refine that. Maybe I can find it on solar system scope. Stellarium, to get a more detailed, because the sun here is higher in the sky in the photos, and this, well, actually, excuse me, this is the ecliptic plane, so that's about right. Yeah, this is the ecliptic plane. This is where the sun is. It's in perspective of what we're looking at, the southwest sky. So let's look just how close is this object. Go back here and look at where the sun is in the current view. Again, this is right now. This is happening right now. So we have the object here. Here's the sun. So if we use that as a reference point, that puts this object about, wow, right next to Virgo's armpit, underneath the moon, where it is right now, getting closer to Jupiter. So, and I don't think that's Planet X. So Planet X is a further orbit. So I think Planet X would be probably closer in this area. Getting close to Jupiter, haven't you say? Wow, kind of sounds biblical, right? Another sign appeared, a great dragon after the child gives birth, when Jupiter leaves the constellation on October 5th, that this thing is going to leave. And he saw another great sign, a dragon, 7 heads. That's funny because Planet X has 7 moons, according to some of the top researchers. Okay, so back to this. Now at the same time that this is happening, we also have the same object, I believe to be right here, being obscured from the lens array. I will hope to get to that. But to stay on topic here, let's watch the time lapse of this strange Milky White planet that is turning red before your very eyes, that never moves in the sky, apparently. It's just the orbit of this planet as it orbits. It's orbiting Nemesis. Great. Okay, so I'm having network issues. I've caught this on an animation, so I will leave a link in the description. Let's watch the time-lapse video of this. So I ran the time-lapse because of network issues. Let's keep your eyes focused here. Watch what happens over the course of time. Remember, this is the exact same time as we're watching the same time. We're watching this live. So as you get this video, go get your cameras if you live in the area. Set your cameras in this direction, the southwest sky. Look at this thing. And I want you to show how it changes colors. I strongly suspect it's going to turn red before your very eyes. Look how big. You guys have the eyes to see this, how shadow is. Now objects, because it's through a lens array, objects are not as big as they appear. It's not. And then in the infrared spectrum, it goes to the night sky. We can see this is a hot planet seen in the infrared, near infrared spectrum from the cameras. And because of the lens array, it's projection, causing a holographic projection in the sky. And then we can still see a faint shadowy image appearing in the clouds. And just like we had seen in my video here that I produced, this is not Photoshop, catching the same objects in broad daylight that appeared. Now this is time lapse. It's not moving this fast. Look at the time at the bottom, see? But this is more like a video form because this camera takes pictures every 110 seconds. So as opposed to every 20 minutes or 30 minutes like addictedsports.com. So we could see a greater sense of motion. Now it can appear here and then over here in the next minute. Again, because of the speed and the size of these objects, I believe to be the moon. And here you can see the next one up way up here. And a few days ago, I also captured the same image on 3 different cameras. You can see here that this red object in the sky over in Coley, I believe this is Switzerland, at near the same time, and in the same direction of these other planets. Take notice of the time here. I'll leave links to all this. You can go look at this yourself. I encourage you to go do it. Keep me up to speed. And believe me, I probably will make another video keeping you tabs on this object here, because this is real time right now. That's what we want to keep our eye. I'm going to keep my eye on. So we have, we have the 20th. This was just yesterday. In the same direction, we captured this same object on 9/20. You see the time here? The 20th, 1940 hours. They're almost nearly the same time this object appears in the same sky for the same length of time. And here we have the same image here. It's the same. And we could look at the thumbnails of that event. And before this appearance, here we could see it appearing here in the sky. Remember, these thumbnails are on a secure server, and you'd have to Photoshop every single one. And what would be the purpose of that? The government is trying to hide these things. They wouldn't want you freaking out for mass panic control, because they're not done building their military bunkers. But they know the day that they're going to see this object. So I'll take you back to this site. Let's click on this, take a nice close look at this object. I think it's curious because I do have an explanation why they have a hard time masking this red color that's bleeding through the lens array. This object here, one reason why we're seeing it is because it's now bigger than the lens. In order for you to mask it through a lens, please go back and watch my other videos explaining how this lens array works. And you know what? Let me show you. Okay, for those of you that wonder about the lens array, I go in a lot of detail, but I'm just going to show you a partial of this, that these lenses in space have been put there by JPL, ultra-thin lenses. By the way, the red lens petal effect is evidence that the sun is going behind the lens array. It's not covering the whole planet Earth. I believe it to be near the Orion constellation, or it follows this cluster of planets. It's relatively big, ultra-thin materials. The red is coming from the lens array. At least it's my theory. And look at these lenses here, right here. That's the lens array. I first saw this, I thought that this is a time-lapse camera over Australia. You can see this every single day. Why Australia? Well, I think it's more visible in Australia because Australia is below the ecliptic plane, just like where the Orion constellation is also below the Earth's ecliptic plane. That's why I think it's just simply closer. And then the way the lens array works is in the simple demonstration I created. Now I use a conventional lens, but this idea is similar. That if you take an object like this red object, that if you put a lens in front of it, you can make it disappear. It's that simple. It distorts it. It pulls the focal point of light away from your eyes. It doesn't reach your optic back of your lens. It just simply disappears. And you get left with distortion. Now, I think we also have the red, because red has, well, it's kind of hard to show. I haven't prepared for it. But red, basically, if you believe in the photon theory, but red basically has a larger magnetic field, which bends more sharply than all the other lights in the spectrum. And so it bends the least. It's more of a straight line than all the other colors. So it doesn't bend as easily as all the other colors in the light spectrum. Maybe one day I'll show that. You could watch it, maybe find it on YouTube. So let me go back to this camera here. And going back in time, let's go over this once again. This planetary body is being seen around the world. I just like these cameras because they're the most clearest. Here we could see they keep a pretty good archive. They have been doing some editing and wiping this stuff out. So I'm compelled to do it before it gets erased. I've seen days erased off these cameras. But if you catch them first, well, they'd be pretty much liars if they actually erased it. Again, we can see the beginning of this two orbiting bodies orbiting around. You can almost see the ecliptic path. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have yet to see an object with the orbits. Usually you see one or two, but now that we're catching these things, here we can see the object appearing here. Now, the reason why I'm doing this again, that light is to the right of the camera. See my cursor over here, and so the shadows would be now coming from the sun. Sometimes you're not always going to get the reflection. Now, since the light is being reflected here, the shadow of this planetary object would be off to the right. So you're not going to see it over the water. We don't have enough wide of an angle here. Let's click on that image. Here, I believe, again, this object here is a direct view, but the shadow would be far to the right. This object is over to the left, so we can see that these things are, I believe, to be orbiting counterclockwise in this orbit. This entire system is exactly the opposite of our system, spinning in the opposite directions. None of these objects are actually going to hit us. It's the debris trail and the garbage that these things have dragged in from the other planets is what is concerning other people. Here we can see this object orbiting here. Look how this is moving. Man, this would have been awesome. This was on video. Some of you people live here. Please, if you can go catch us on video now and watch these orbiting objects. Look at this. Let's click on this one again. It's worth going over twice because it is... Wow. Well, and here we... Well, I'm not sure that might be a planet. This one here amazes me too. I mean, here we have this. I believe to see all three moons in this shot right here. And look how fast this thing moved. And here, look at the timestamp that this was snapped into view. It went from here to here, and actually it moved. It's moving. Oh, I stand corrected. I'm sorry, it's moving backwards in time. It's going clockwise. Because if this is the same object that we just saw here, it went from here to there. See that? So I do stand corrected. It's going clockwise. And we all make mistakes. We're all observing this thing together. You can see not all the eyes can see the contrast of colors. Sometimes to see the stuff, if you actually tilt, if you're watching this on a laptop, which I recommend, then you can see, and you tilt your screen down, you lower the contrast and you can see more objects, more subtle light colors. So I'm just going to go back and see if I had missed anything. Yep. And I don't know if some of your eyes can see this circular object. This is the same. Wow. Well, thank you for watching. Oh, look at that. Notice the camera is all lit up. Again, seems to be, this is at 720. I'm willing to bet that anybody wants to investigate this, that when we go back to the 720 time mark, this sudden darkness and light that we see for a moment in time is the infrared spectrum being washed out by one of these planetary bodies. And I don't think this is even Planet X, which is closer to the Earth in a further orbit from Nemesis, because I don't see any plasma wings. It doesn't look like the spider. This thing's nearly round. Look at this object here. Okay, now we got to go back in time. And here we see it again, the same shadowy object. This is how we're going to see it. But now, as it gets closer, we are going to see this thing looking more and more red, as other channels are reporting this. Other YouTubers, it is basically visible. You just have to be looking for it. And it's going to turn from a faint red to a dark red to more of a solid color before your very eyes. Look at that. Very subtle. Anyways, I hope you liked this video. Please copy, like, and share, and see you all at the Lord's Supper very soon. Have a blessed day.